Who is the biggest troll in history? The guy who opened a fake #1 restaurant in London using Google reviews and his back garden and shed with microwave meals. In the 30s to 40s, BBC did an April Fool's broadcast where they told people how spaghetti was made. On trees. They literally showed fake spaghetti trees, and since not many people in that time knew how spaghetti was made, lots of people believed it. Mozart didn't like this singer so much that he wrote a piece for her with high and low notes constantly because he noticed that when she hit low notes her chin went to her chest and when she hit high notes her head would fling back. So it was like she was bobbing like a chicken. The old-timey NYC newspaper The Sun Emo. In the 19th century, they published some articles about the presence of life on the moon like unicorns, winged humans, and other creatures who built temples and lived peacefully. This caused a massive moon craze until it was later outed as fake. April Fool's Day 1974, when a man burned 70 rubber tires on a dormant volcano in Alaska. This has to be up there. He waited 3 years to get a helicopter to fly the tires to the top to get a picture-perfect condition. He even got the Coast Guard called out too, and here's the link to the story. Hoaxes. Org, AF_database permalink, the _eruption _ Mount Edgecombe. Technically this isn't a troll since it was serving a purpose. But Admiral Nelson was escaping a French fleet when a man fell overboard. It was Nelson's policy of never leaving anyone behind, so he turned his ship around to go pick him up. The French saw his ship turn back toward them, assumed he had reinforcements coming beyond the horizon, so they turned and ran. I was thinking more like the mortician who patented the automatic telephone switch 3 years after finding out his rival's wife worked as a telephone operator and would reroute calls asking for his funeral parlor to her husband's. The guy put a whole worldwide workforce out of work for one person's actions. Edit. Thank you for the upvotes and awards, you guys are awesome. Theodore Hook, the perpetrator of the Berners Street hoax in London in 1810, in which Cook sent thousands of letters summoning all manners of various vendors and service people and physicians and dignitaries and others to all come to one random person's home, literally shutting down a large part of London as they all descended upon the same address throughout the day. All while Cook and a friend sat watching from a house across the street, presumably laughing their asses off the whole time. Didn't George R.R. Martin once say that in the future he would love to get people so immersed in a fantasy world novel and never finish it? The motherfucker who sold the Eiffel Tower, twice. Stephen Hawking was in an interview when a cord was unplugged and alarm went off. This was before he was completely immobile, and he slumped in his chair. The people interviewing him were scared out of their minds, until they realized that he was all right, and chuckling at his joke. The cord and alarm were for a computer. Eric the Red. He wanted people to come and live in his newfound ice-covered land, so he named it Greenland. Diogenes. He became notorious for his philosophical stunts, such as carrying a lamp during the day, claiming to be looking for an honest man. He criticized Plato, disputed his interpretation of Socrates, and sabotaged his lectures, sometimes distracting listeners by bringing food and eating during the discussions. Diogenes was also noted for having mocked Alexander the Great, both in public and to his face when he visited Corinth in 336 BC. I forget the name, but that one guy from the 1800s who bought specific tickets to a play and then gave them away to bald men on the street so that when everyone took their seats and the bald men's heads reflected the light from the stage, they spelled out, "fuck," as seen from the stage. This Chinese general whose city was besieged by a much larger army. So he opened the main gate and sat atop it playing his flute. The enemy thought it was a trap, so they packed their stuff and left. Gregor MacGregor. He was a Scotsman who claimed to own land in the New World. He got fake maps printed, fake pictures drawn, then published it all in a big convincing book. He then got over 200 people to emigrate to this paradise and, get this, dropped them in the Central American jungle. Many died. Some returned and blamed the expedition guide for directing them to the wrong location. Still believing Gregor's story. The more you read, the crazier it gets. N.M. Wikipedia. Org, Wiki, Gregor_MacGregor. Giles Corey. A farmer caught up in the Salem witch trials. He was sentenced to pressing, being slowly crushed by stones, to force him to make a plea. Every time he was questioned, he simply said, "More weight." He died without making a plea. The dude who somehow got a network news program to say that a plane that crashed was piloted by 4 men with the names Hu Li Fuck, Sum Ting Wang, Wei Tu Lo, Bang Ding Ao. The guy who decided to put an ice troll 3/4 the way up the path to High Hrothgar. Basil Zaharov, a Greek arms dealer. He once donated a submarine to the Greek government. He then told the Turks that the Greeks had a submarine and sold them 2 submarines. Lastly, he went to the Russians and told them the Turks had 2 submarines, so he sold them 2 as well. None of the submarines actually worked. Edit. Donated to the Greeks. Not sold. Theodore Roosevelt. He got shot. Went on a 1-hour speech mocking his assassin and then went to hospital. Michelangelo, without a doubt. This man was hired to paint a chapel and put more dicks and asses on it than you ever did see. Whoever decided to delete Club Penguin? Russians. And how they continuously retreated when Napoleon tried to attack them, resulting him giving up due to the situations his army was facing. Like disease. Orson Welles did a radio play that told people the Martians were invading. The next day he told everyone that his play had freaked out millions of people, when it was a few dozen at most. The prophet Elijah heckled the priests of Baal because their God would not set fire to their sacrifice. IIRC. The Bible says the priests of Baal prayed all day while Elijah heckled them. Those guys that wrote, "Kilroy was here," during WW2. Whoever told people to rush Area 51? Don't know if this has been said. But Stalin. He convicted his closest friends of treason. Then had them sentenced to death. Later on, they were blindfolded and awaiting the firing squad's bullets. The squad fired blanks. Stalin pulled the blindfolds off and said, "Gotcha. Legend. This will be buried." But Sergei Korolyov, the dude, was getting frustrated with the Soviet government because they weren't interested in funding his space exploration projects. So he got his propaganda group to publish articles about how Russia was getting close to sending something into space. As expected, the US took the bait and started working on their satellite program. And the Soviet government freaked out when they saw the US doing that. So they funded Korolyov's projects. He and his group played them good. The guy who faked cancer at our teenagers. France building a fake Paris in World War I to confuse German bomber pilots. The guy that sent the first spam email. On May 3, 1978. Gary Thurk sent the first spam email on ARPANET, marketing the DECISYSTEM20 family of office computers. He succeeded in annoying many people. And the governing authorities even started a crackdown, stating, nobody should be allowed to send a message with a header that long. No matter what it is about. Thurk didn't know it at the time. But he created a new type of email. Reddit user. Malleable Duck Rick rolled Rick Astley here in Reddit. The employee at the Four Seasons landscape that took the reservation for the Trump campaign without asking questions. Clearly they knew it was a mistake, not like their company as a well-known place for presidential speeches.